Right. So when I started this journey, and I did the first couple of videos that I did, I really wasn't in the greatest headspace. Um, and I look back at what tipped me over the edge, and the truth of it is, it was fear. I was living in fear. So if you look at the definition of fear, it's an unpleasant emotion caused by the threat of danger, fear, or harm. And I was living that as a grown-up adult with a life. I was just fucking gripped by this daily fear. I would wake up in the morning, I would feel scared, and I'd go to bed at night and I'd feel scared. And I'm not talking about a fear of spiders or a fear of the dark. I'm talking about this kind of this unrecognizable feeling that was actually very recognizable because I felt it all my life. So I decided when the shit hit the fan that I'd look at it. And I've looked at it before and I've thought about it before. But I wanted to do a little video, put a little video together because I'm sure I'm not the only person who's living in fear or who has lived in fear and it's destroyed their life. Now, fear doesn't mean the same thing for everybody. So this is a little explanation of what it means for me in the hope that it might help you and the things that I've done to try and relinquish that fear and to try and move past it and move on from it. I mean, what are the roots of my fear? Well, right from being a child, I can remember being afraid of things. So it was more societal things. I was scared of what people thought of me. I was scared of what I didn't have. I was scared of not getting what I wanted. I would get feelings of fear if I had to go out, for example, and I knew that my friends had the newest push bike and I didn't. And what would they think of me for that? It was ultimately about how I viewed myself in the world, in the world. And I know I had some friends who seemed to have it all together looking back, but for me, I was raised in a single parent family. My mum worked 5 jobs at one point to supply for the three of us, um, and she did her best. But there was always something missing in me, and that manifested itself in the wider world around me. This fear that I had about how I felt about myself. I was really small. People were bigger than me. My brother and sister were the hardest kids in school. When I were a kid in the 70s and the 80s, that mattered. You know, those things mattered, or I believed they did. And that belief was the start of the fear for me. The unfortunate thing is, I kind of had very confused thinking and very negative thinking from an early age. So I was riddled with self-doubt, with low self-esteem, with low self-belief. Even though I was a very intelligent child and I was quite gifted at things that I could do, but it was a very confused thinking process that I had, which was, again, it was grounded in this fear of what might happen next. You know, what would someone think? Um, and sometimes it crippled me as a child. Now, as I mentioned in my first video, I found that kind of drugs and alcohol really helped. So from a really early age, I suppose I self-medicated. When I was drunk, when I was drinking, when I was taking drugs, I was always alive and so very extrovert personality as a kid. And I would fit in anywhere like a chameleon. I would kind of fit in anywhere and I could mix with any of the groups and act the part, pretend I wasn't scared when really I was riddled by what the people around me would be thinking of me. Um, and unfortunately, that low self-worth and low self-esteem, which I didn't know were low self-worth and low self-esteem at the time, it dragged me into a cycle of thinking, a pattern of thinking, which dictated that that was the first thought I went to. Something would happen, and the first thought I would go to was fear. Or I would be planning something, And the first thought before anything else would be fear. Um, Going to a party, getting dressed, have I got the right clothes, does my hair look right? And these are things that normal people think about, don't get me wrong, but it was just a totally different level for me. And the problem for me, I found out later, was that um, I have, there's something that doesn't function right in my brain. So we've got a part in our brain called the limbic system, and it's the core of our brain. And that's what produces the different chemicals that produce the emotions that we then feel regularly, and that kind of alter our behaviors accordingly. And so the limbic system and the pineal gland are, they're responsible for the release of dopamine, adrenaline, serotonin, the feel good or the frightening chemicals in our brain. So if you've heard of the saying, the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism in our brain, that's kind of the ape brain, the monkey brain, the very primal instinct in us. So when fear kicks in, when there's a threat of danger or fear or harm, the fight, flight, freeze, it kicks in. And for me, it kicked in an awful lot. And it's only with the benefit of hindsight that I can see that these kind of primal instincts and the chemical release in my brain had been engineered over time by me on a conveyor belt, a conveyor belt that just reproduced the same negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and then additional behaviors, because I'd learned from my brain had functioned from such an early age in that way. So I mean, if you look at fear as an energy, if there was an energy field in the world, and you have a positive energy field and a negative energy field, I had learned to live on the negative side of this energy, and my whole function, my whole brain pattern had developed to a point that I would wake up in the morning and my first thought would be a learnt thought, a learnt behaviour, that things weren't going to go well today. It was going to be stressful. I would be anxious. I would be fearful. I would be worried. And it's very subtle when we're growing up. It doesn't just happen like this very quickly. And when you look at fear as an energy, you can see how once you get into that pattern of negativity, that pattern of this kind of recurring energy, you recreate the same things over and over again. It then just becomes a pattern. You live it day after day. It's like a mental rehearsal. You wear it. So something might happen. So when I was 14 years old, I might have gone out one day and I didn't have the correct breakdancing tracksuit, a Lessie or Fila breakdancing tracksuit. I had, I can't even remember any of the old makes now. So much shit, usually off the market. Felt great when I bought it till I realised that mine says Nessie and everybody else's said Alessi. Doesn't matter, but it did matter to me. So then after that, the chemicals had been released in my brain. My brain latched onto that, and then the following time, it magnified it, and then it magnified it some more. And that's the kind of mental rehearsal and repetition of how fear manifested itself in my life. The breakdown that I've just had, and the previous kind of relapse, because I'd stopped drinking for a while, a long time in fact. But I'd slowly, after having a period of kind of sobriety and good mental health, I'd slowly and surely slipped back into that pattern of negative thinking. Now, I'd maintained the positive thinking when I'd got it for a time. And it doesn't take long for let's just say, for example, my car broke down. You're already into victim mentality. Oh shit, my car's broken down. Oh god, I've got no money. Those negative chemicals, that negative energy, the positive's soon gone. The negative, it's been replaced. The chemicals are pumping again, and the brain laps it up. It does. The feel-good chemicals are overtaken by the feel-bad chemicals for somebody like me who had lived it for so long as a youngster. And it didn't take long for that kind of cycle of thinking to pop back in again, you know. And even as a grown-up, I was either blind or oblivious or ignorant of what was going on. And then it slowly creeps back in again. As grown-ups, we don't see the signs. We don't see how difficult it's getting. Or we do, and we do nothing about it, because the truth is we don't know what to fucking do about it. You kind of wait, what happens now? Oh, just get up tomorrow, give my head a shake, move on. Get up again, give my head a shake, move on. Come on, Rob, what are you doing? What if you can't sort it out? And that's the self-fulfilling prophecy as well. That's part of the cycle. You see, you give your head a shake, and then 2 days later it happens again. And then you start, the low self-esteem, the self-doubt, the belief that I'm a loser, I can't do anything right, everything goes wrong. Before long, you're believing the bullshit. You believe in it. Now, a great acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. Because now I'm feeling better. All that evidence, it wasn't real, but it felt real. It felt real. I was in pain. And it wasn't just mental pain. It manifested as physical pain. And I also felt it as spiritual pain. Now, talking about spiritual pain, and mental pain for that matter, if you don't realise you're in it, it's a very difficult thing to see and acknowledge. But I'm telling you, and this is only my truth and my story, when I had that breakdown, I didn't know what to do next. So I decided to stop doing everything that was causing me fear. And that might sound really drastic, but I put my phone down because I was scared of clients contacting me. I stopped going to work, stopped having sex with my wife, stopped eating, I stopped leaving the house. I pretty much stopped everything, because when I looked at it, all those things were causing me pain. Now, like I said, that's a really drastic way to do it. And having had a breakdown as well, it was probably a lot easier for me to just stop everything. And then after a couple of weeks of that, my head kind of said, so what are you going to do next? What are you going to do now? Now, I was blessed that I had a few friends that were finding this new spiritual way of life. And believe me, I didn't want to follow their footsteps. I didn't. But I wanted to feel better. And one of my friends gave me a book. It's a bit out there. It's called Becoming Supernatural by a guy called Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I haven't read the book. I haven't read the whole book, but I've started reading it. And the way he started describing stuff, it really made sense. Because how I've just described it to you, my brain fell into a pattern of thinking, feeling, and behaving that had happened over 30 years. And then in this book, it said, so change it. Fucking change it. Change it. Okay, then how do I do that? Well, don't do what you were doing. Do something different. Okay, then. Where do I start? So, he pretty much described it how I've just described it to you. We program our brains. We program it. by making decisions. And I don't know about you, but I have a constant flow of thoughts all day, every second. Every second of every minute of every day, I have involuntary thoughts. Let's call them involuntary thoughts. And I can choose which ones to listen to and which ones not to listen to. And you can guarantee, pound to a pinch of shit, the negative ones are the ones that my brain, because of the chemical imbalance that's going on and the learned behaviour and the kind of continued bad choices, the mental rehearsal that I kind of create for myself, I'll always go there. I'll always go negative. And he said, don't. Involuntary thought. When you get involuntary thoughts, don't go with the negative. Think they're negative. Just think it. Think, wait a minute, oh, I've got no money, I can't do this, I can't go to work, I don't know what. Whoa. They're very negative, they are, Robert. So maybe not think of that. Maybe not think of those. How about changing the pattern? Let's flip the script. Right, so I'm not ready to go to work. What can I do? What else can I do? What can I do to make my life better? How can I change this pattern of thinking and feeling and behaving for the better? And I mentioned the spiritual side of stuff. One of my friends said, why don't you just try yoga? Do some yoga. It's worked for millions of people, billions of people, for thousands of years. He said, what have you got to lose? And I didn't have all to lose. I really didn't have anything to lose. And he'd already arranged kind of some yoga classes down at his place. And a few years back, I tried meditation, another spiritual thing. So I thought, what have I got to lose? So I started doing a bit of yoga. And I started looking at a few different meditation techniques. And fuck me, I'm swearing, because it's been such a powerful last month for me. The difference in energy, positivity, physically feeling better, mentally feeling better, just by opening myself up to a few spiritual principles that have helped me change from this very, very negative person into quite a positive person. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not fixed. And God, it only takes 1 minute. Yesterday, I was having a bit of a rough afternoon, and I directed it at my wife. And it wasn't an argument, but I just said a couple of things that weren't called for. They were quite negative. And then I woke up this morning, realised what I'd done, and I apologised to her straight away. But I caught it. Didn't catch it in time, but I caught it. And then I went and did yoga this morning. Now, the thing about yoga and meditation, and I can manifest in my own head what I want for me. And what I want for me isn't pain and suffering. It's not. I'm worth more than that. My self-worth and my self-esteem are very low, and a breakdown will do that to you. Depression on any level will do that to you. But I need to give myself a chance. And if you've watched this video and you have identified with any of it, you need to give yourself a chance. Because that self-fulfilling prophecy that says, I'm a failure and I can't do anything right, that will only ever achieve reality because you thought it. And in equal measure, if you think, I'm amazing and I'm awesome and I can achieve anything, you can make that happen. You can make that happen by doing a few simple things. So the list on the end of the negative side is fear as an energy. Imagine fear as this invisible energy. So if you can imagine fear and negativity as this negative energy, you have the capacity to imagine brilliance and positivity as the same energy, because we're all part of the same energy. Everything is part of the same energy. So you can flip the script and you can choose this side. You can choose positivity and brilliance. You can. And then, just like you would recreate fear, you need to recreate brilliance in your thinking. In your thinking. If you get something wrong, it's not because you're bad, it's just because you make mistakes because you're human. And if you get something wrong and you want to get it right, just practice. Shit. That's top and bottom for me. I'd get something wrong and then, oh, I got something wrong. Oh, my God. Oh, stop it. Stop it. We've got to live it day after day. We've got to live it day after day. If we find ourselves falling back into the negative patterns, we've got to fight it and we've got to give ourselves the opportunity to get better. Otherwise, we're never going to get better. Never. That mental rehearsal doesn't only apply to one side, it applies to both. I can mentally rehearse to think better of myself. I can mentally rehearse to think better of my surroundings, of my life, and of what I'm doing in it. Repetition, just repeat it over and over and over again. Repeat the thinking pattern. If Kung Fu Panda, great spiritual film. At the start of the film, Poe says there's no charge for awesomeness and attractiveness. Right? So I say that to myself. Of all things I could say, there's no charge for awesomeness and attractiveness, so I can have it. I can have that. I can be awesome and attractive. I don't have to feel it or look it or be perfect. There's no charge for it. It's attainable. I can have that. There's pitfalls to that freedom. There's pitfalls to it. Because at first, it feels like you're fighting a losing battle. And that's what happened yesterday. My head said, you might as well give up now. What's the point of fucking trying? Why are you still carrying on with it? You know, it might be a year, it might be 2, it might be 5, but you're going to fall on your ass. You're going to fall on your ass and it's all going to go wrong. Well, all I can tell you is this. I've changed my energy and I've attracted things that I wouldn't have attracted had I have been down and negative. So I'm currently learning yoga and I'm learning to teach yoga. I'm currently learning lots of different meditation practices. I'm learning about the spiritual side of things, about your chakras and what they do for you and how you can increase the consumption of this all wonderful energy that's available to us all. I've looked into Reiki healing, and at some point in the not too distant future, I'm going to be going on my first course for my Reiki training. This is a far cry from where I was running my successful little business, you know, bringing a good wage in each week, plenty of work. Shit, I was booked up till Christmas. Which is great. Really good reputation. But it means shit. I promise, it means shit. Now, I'm thinking doing a bit of yoga teaching. I want to do some Reiki healing. It sounds absolutely... Me saying it to you, I want to say it sounds ludicrous. But straight away I'm jumping on this side, the negative side. It's not ludicrous at all. It's not ludicrous at all. Thousands, millions of people across the planet, they live this way. And maybe more of us should do it. You know, when I look back to my childhood, I look how I was influenced by the things I watched on telly, the adverts for things I couldn't afford, the cars people were driving, shit, the soap operas, they're called dramas for a reason. You know, you watch Corrie, you watch EastEnders, you watch whatever drama you watch, and they're all living in the repetitive cycle of negativeness, and we're feeding off it. We're feeding off it. You know, I don't watch telly. If I watch telly, I'll watch a Disney film. But it's very, you can even buy into the negativity of that. So I've just flipped the script. That's all I've done. And I don't know if anybody bothered to watch my first video, but I feel like a different person. You can feel like a different person too. You don't have to be caught up in that repeating cycle of fear. It's something that can be changed. And when you're in depths of despair and the pits of depression, it doesn't feel that way. But take it from someone who's been there. Anything's possible, and you're worth it. You're worth so much. There's not enough love in this world. There isn't enough love. And we only keep it if we give it away. So I'm trying to share a little bit of myself, my love, with other people in the hope that it doesn't have to be the same path as me, but just believe in yourself. There's no nicer feeling in the world than to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I believe in you. So, right, no editing techniques. Yeah, I just say at the end of the video, I was with a couple of my mates earlier on. They were taking the mickey out of my accent. My first couple of videos that I did, I tried to put on this kind of. I tried to speak very very nicely and very softly and look at the camera. And yes, this is it. And I look back at him. I thought, you miserable twat. You miserable twat. Who'd watch that? I'm not saying anybody will watch this. You know, I'm a Yorkshireman. I'm common as muck. I'm a working class lad that suffered and that don't want to suffer anymore. So if you identify at all, keep watching. Thank you.